The space station Aurora was more than just a venue. It was a symbol of the galaxy's military prowess, a place where power was measured not in words, but in the sheer magnitude of technological superiority. Its rotating rings, designed to simulate gravity for diplomats and warriors alike, gleamed under the light of a nearby star, reflecting a brilliance that rivaled the celestial bodies surrounding it. Within its vast halls, the greatest military minds of the known universe gathered once every century to showcase their species' advancements, reinforcing the balance of power that had kept the galaxy from descending into chaos. This summit was sacred, an unbroken tradition for millennia, and yet, for the first time in its history, a new player had arrived: humans. For decades, the Galactic Senate had debated their inclusion. Some argued that Earth's rapid technological progress warranted recognition, while others dismissed them as primitive newcomers, unworthy of standing among the galactic elite. The vote had been close, but the rule was clear: any species with faster-than-light travel had the right to attend. And so, humanity had earned its place, not through diplomacy or alliances, but through sheer capability. Now, aboard the Aurora, their presence was undeniable. Thomas Johnson, Earth's representative, had stepped into the reception hall with the quiet confidence of a man who knew he was an outsider. His uniform, unadorned compared to the elaborate regalia of the alien commanders, had drawn curious glances. His calm demeanor had been mistaken for ignorance, his polite words for submission. But in the eyes of the 5 dominant military leaders, Zorath of the Raxar Empire, Draxina of the Nexar Kingdom, Chrono of the Cybernetic Alliance, Soot of the Obsidian Order, and Rin of the Radiant Harmony, his species was a curiosity at best, a threat at worst. The summit had begun, and with it, the unspoken challenge: how would humanity measure up against the titans of the galaxy? The aliens were ready to display their might, confident that their centuries of experience would render Earth's contribution insignificant. But Thomas Johnson had not come to be intimidated. He had come to prove that humanity's place in the stars was not an accident. It was earned. The 5 alien commanders stood as the undisputed pillars of galactic military power, each representing a civilization that had shaped the balance of force across the stars. Supreme Admiral Zorath of the Raxar Empire was a being of calculated precision, his shifting silver-green skin reflecting both his emotions and the cold logic of his species. The Raxar had built their empire on stealth and subterfuge, their fleet composed of vessels designed to vanish from enemy sensors and strike without warning. Zorath's disdain for humanity was clear in his every movement, from the slow blink of his 6 eyes to the way his fingers drummed impatiently against his sash. Beside him, Battle Lord Draxina of the Nexar Kingdom exuded raw power. Her red-scaled skin shimmered with an almost molten glow, and the weight of her presence sent vibrations through the floor with every step. The Nexar were masters of brute force, their warhammers designed to crush enemy fleets with overwhelming firepower. She had no patience for subtlety, only for results. Watching Thomas with a mixture of skepticism and amusement, she expected nothing more than a display of primitive technology, a mere curiosity rather than a serious contender. Chief Strategist Chrono of the Cybernetic Alliance was an insectoid being, his elongated form adorned with titanium plating that covered his chitinous exoskeleton. His mandibles clicked in rapid succession as he spoke, a trait of his species that often unsettled others. The Cybernetic Alliance relied on swarm warfare, deploying vast numbers of self-guiding fighters to overwhelm any resistance. To Chrono, the idea of a single human commander presenting anything meaningful was absurd. His people had perfected the art of numerical dominance long before humanity had even left its homeworld. War General Soot of the Obsidian Order was an imposing figure, his rock-like skin giving him the appearance of a living monument. His voice rumbled like shifting tectonic plates, and his people had built their reputation on unbreakable defenses and devastating planetary sieges. He had seen countless species rise and fall, and in his eyes, humans were just another fleeting presence in the endless march of galactic history. Finally, Admiral Rin of the Radiant Harmony was the most enigmatic of them all. Her delicate features and glowing eyes hinted at a mind that operated beyond conventional understanding, capable of bending perception and instilling fear in enemy crews. The Radiants had long relied on psychological warfare, ensuring that many battles ended before they even began. To her, the idea of a human presence at the summit was not just irrelevant, it was laughable. Thomas Johnson moved with quiet purpose, his steps measured as he crossed the gleaming reception hall. The alien commanders turned toward him, their expressions ranging from mild curiosity to outright skepticism. He acknowledged them with a polite nod, his face betraying no emotion. To the seasoned warriors before him, his demeanor was an anomaly. Most newcomers to the summit arrived with either awe or apprehension, eager to impress or desperate to avoid embarrassment. Thomas did neither. Zorath was the first to approach, his 6 eyes blinking in slow succession as he studied the human. "Commander Johnson," he said, his voice smooth but edged with condescension. "I must admit, I was surprised when your species was granted an invitation. We expected more spectacle." Thomas offered a small smile. "Good surprises make life interesting, Admiral," he replied. "I appreciate the opportunity to be here." Draxina followed, her heavy footsteps echoing as she loomed over him. "Your kind has achieved much in a short time," she said, her tone carrying the weight of a predator assessing its prey. "But this summit is for the pinnacle of military achievement. I hope you won't feel too overwhelmed." Thomas met her gaze without flinching. "I'm here to learn as much as to share," he said evenly. Chrono clicked his mandibles, his insectoid form twitching slightly. "You do not seem impressed," he observed. "Perhaps you do not understand what you are seeing." Thomas glanced at the others, his expression unreadable. "I understand perfectly," he said. "But I also know that every species has its strengths." Soot chuckled, his voice like grinding stone. "Spoken like a diplomat," he muttered. "But we are warriors, human. Do not mistake courtesy for acceptance." Thomas gave a small nod. "Understood, General. I wouldn't expect anything less." Rin, standing apart from the others, studied him with her glowing eyes. "You are calm," she murmured. "Too calm." Thomas simply smiled. "I prefer to let actions speak louder than words," he said. The mediator's voice rang through the hall. "All representatives have arrived. Please proceed to the presentation chamber for the opening ceremony." The presentation chamber buzzed with anticipation as the alien commanders took their places on the raised platform. Thomas Johnson was directed to a smaller chair off to the side, a subtle but telling gesture that marked him as an outsider. The massive holographic display in the center of the room shimmered to life, projecting intricate schematics and real-time footage of each species' most formidable vessels. The Galactic Senate's elite had gathered to witness the latest advancements in warfare, and the summit's opening ceremony was about to begin. Supreme Admiral Zorath stood first, his silver-green skin shifting subtly as he activated a control on his wrist. The hologram transformed, revealing the Sentinel Wrath, a sleek, obsidian-hued warship that flickered in and out of visibility. "The pride of the Raxor fleet," Zorath declared, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of military dominance. "Its adaptive camouflage renders it undetectable by all known sensors. It is the ultimate predator, silent, unseen, and deadly." The audience murmured in appreciation as the holographic simulation demonstrated the vessel's ability to vanish from scans and strike with surgical precision. Zorath cast a sidelong glance at Thomas, clearly expecting to see signs of intimidation. Instead, the human simply nodded, jotting down notes with quiet focus. Battle Lord Draxina followed, her towering form casting a shadow over the chamber as she activated her own presentation. A gigantic warhammer materialized in the hologram, its hull reinforced with layers of advanced alloys, its main cannon capable of unleashing enough energy to crack planetary crusts. "The Planetary Buster," she announced, pride evident in her voice. "No fleet has ever withstood its firepower." The simulated demonstration showed the ship firing a single shot at an empty moon, reducing it to drifting rubble. The audience gasped, but Thomas merely raised an eyebrow, making another note on his pad. Chief Strategist Chrono's presentation was a flurry of movement as his hologram displayed thousands of self-guiding fighters, each responding to his commands with perfect synchronization. The cybernetic alliance's swarm cloud, he clicked. Precision, speed, and overwhelming numbers. Your fleets would be reduced to scrap before they could react. Or General Soot demonstrated an impenetrable shield system, one capable of withstanding even the most powerful energy weapons. No assault can break through, he rumbled, his confidence unshaken. Finally, Admiral Rin displayed the psionic forge, a vessel capable of projecting psychological warfare so intense that enemy crews surrendered without firing a single shot. Fear is the most powerful weapon, she whispered. Each commander watched Thomas closely, waiting for signs of awe or submission. He remained composed, his calm focus unsettling them more than any reaction they had anticipated. Thomas Johnson remained composed as the 5 alien commanders gathered around him, their curiosity tinged with skepticism. The evening reception was in full swing, with diplomats and military officers mingling under the artificial starlight of the observation dome. But the central figures of the summit were too focused on him to partake in the festivities. They had spent the day showcasing their technological superiority, expecting the human representative to be overwhelmed, yet his calm demeanor suggested otherwise. You claim your species has fought more wars than any other, Zorath said, his 6 eyes blinking in slow succession. But war is not just about numbers. It is about strategy, discipline, and control. Your kind has had none of that in space. Thomas took a measured sip of his drink, letting the moment stretch before answering. War teaches survival, he said, and Earth has had no shortage of lessons. Draxina's massive shoulders shifted as she leaned forward. You speak as if your history of violence is something to be proud of. It is not. Thomas set his glass down, his expression unchanging. I never said we were proud of it, but we don't deny what it taught us. While your civilizations were expanding into the stars, Earth was refining warfare into an exact science. We built weapons that could level entire cities in seconds. We developed strategies that turned the tide of battles before they even began. Chrono's mandibles clicked rapidly, his insectoid form twitching with agitation. And yet, your species is still young. You have no history in space warfare. How could you possibly compare to us? Thomas met his gaze evenly. Because we learned the hard way. We fought not just against each other, but against nature itself. Droughts, famines, and plagues. We built our technology not for conquest, but for survival. And when we finally reached space, we carried that knowledge with us. Soot's stone-like face remained unreadable, but his voice carried a note of intrigue. You say your species is ready for galactic warfare, but what proof do you offer? Thomas allowed himself a small smile. Proof will come tomorrow. Rin, silent until now, studied him with her glowing eyes. You speak with certainty, she murmured, as if you already know the outcome. Thomas gave a slight nod. I know our history, and history has a way of repeating itself. The 5 alien commanders exchanged glances, their confidence shaken. For the first time, they were not sure if they were the strongest in the room. As the first light of the system's sun bathed the space station Aurora in a soft glow, Thomas Johnson stood in the presentation chamber, his dark blue uniform crisp and unwavering in its simplicity. The alien commanders had taken their seats, their expressions a mixture of expectation and lingering doubt. The mediator's voice echoed through the chamber. The Senate welcomes Earth's contribution to this summit. Thomas stepped forward, his calm demeanor unchanged. He tapped his wrist device, and the massive holographic display flickered to life, showing the vast emptiness of space beyond the station. Earth's vessel is not yet visible, he explained, but it is on schedule. He turned his gaze to the alien leaders. Hold your skepticism for just a moment longer. With a final command, Thomas gave the order. Captain Olivia, bring her in. The chamber fell silent as the sensors detected an approaching object. At first, the readings were inconsistent. Too large, too fast. The system recalibrated, then recalibrated again, struggling to comprehend the scale of what was coming. A hushed murmur spread through the audience. The alien commanders leaned forward, their confidence cracking as the image on the holographic display grew clearer. A ship emerged from the void. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Dark, angular, and massive beyond comprehension. The Aurora station's display struggled to fit its entire form into view, the sheer scale of the vessel defying their expectations. Where their own ships had been sleek, elegant, or imposing in their own right, this one was something else entirely. It was not built for intimidation through sheer presence alone. It was built to dominate. Zorath's 6 eyes blinked rapidly, his expression one of disbelief. "Mid-sized?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. Thomas nodded. "Yes, Admiral. We have smaller, and we have larger." Draxina for once had no immediate retort. Her massive frame remained still, her red scales dimmed in shock. Chrono's mandibles clicked in rapid succession, his insectoid mind struggling to process the sheer scale of Earth's fleet. Soot's stone-like features cracked slightly, his usual confidence giving way to a rare moment of hesitation. Rin, ever composed, merely stared, her glowing eyes reflecting the image of the monstrous vessel as it cast a shadow across the assembled alien ships. The revelation of the Mars Colossus had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Senate, but Thomas Johnson remained unfazed. As the alien commanders absorbed the implications of what they had just witnessed, he stood at the edge of the presentation chamber, arms clasped behind his back, his expression unreadable. The Colossus was not just a ship. It was a statement, a declaration of humanity's place among the stars. And now, the galaxy had to decide how to respond. Zorath was the first to recover, his 6 eyes narrowing as he processed the data streaming from his fleet's sensors. "Your vessel is impressive," he admitted, though his voice carried the weight of calculation. "But power alone does not define strength. Strategy, tactics, and experience, these are what truly determine military superiority." Thomas met his gaze evenly. "Experience comes in many forms," he said. "Some species learn through centuries of peace. Others, like Earth, through necessity." Draxina let out a deep, rumbling chuckle, though there was no humor in it. "You speak as if your wars were some kind of advantage," she said. "As if destruction shaped you into something greater." Thomas nodded. "In many ways they did. We fought not just against each other, but against the very forces of nature. And when we finally reached space, we carried that mindset with us." Chrono's mandibles clicked rapidly, his insectoid mind racing through the implications. "You claim your species has built 50 of these vessels," he said. "But why? What purpose do they serve?" Thomas's smile was slight, but it carried a weight that made the room tense. "Survival," he said simply. "You've all fought wars, but your conflicts were limited, contained to regions, to fleets. Earth's wars were total. We learned that the only way to ensure peace is through absolute preparedness." Soot, the massive stone-skinned commander, crossed his arms. "And what of your intentions now?" he asked, his voice like grinding boulders. "You say you do not seek conquest, yet you arrive here with a ship that makes ours look like relics." Thomas's expression turned serious. "Earth does not want war," he said. "But we will not allow ourselves to be at the mercy of any power. We came to this summit not to provoke fear, but to show that we are here to stay." The room fell silent once more, the weight of his words settling over the gathered military leaders like a thick fog. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and none of them knew how to react. The alien commanders followed Thomas and Captain Olivia deeper into the Colossus, their steps measured, their eyes scanning every detail of the human vessel. The corridors were starkly different from the organic curves and elaborate decorations of their own ships. Here, efficiency reigned. The walls were lined with reinforced steel, unadorned but sturdy. The lighting was cold and practical, casting sharp shadows across the crew as they moved with military precision. "This ship is unlike anything I've ever seen," Zorath muttered, his shifting blue-gray skin flickering in response to the sterile environment. "There is no elegance, no artistry, just function." Thomas glanced at him. "Elegance doesn't win wars," he said. "Efficiency does." Draxina grunted, her massive form towering over the human officers as they passed. "Your crew is disciplined," she observed. "But Discipline means little without firepower. Captain Olivia gave a crisp nod. Firepower is what we'll be showing next. They reached the bridge, a vast circular chamber lined with monitors displaying real-time data from the ship's systems. Officers moved with practiced coordination, their eyes flicking between readings and orders. Unlike the alien command centers, which often relied on holographic interfaces or neural-linked controls, the human bridge was a blend of physical consoles and digital displays, ensuring that no single system failure could cripple the ship's ability to operate. Rin studied the bridge with quiet intensity, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim light. "This is not just a warship," she murmured. "It is a mobile fortress." Thomas turned to her. "That's exactly what it is." Chrono's mandibles clicked in rapid succession as he examined the tactical displays. "Your command structure is unusual," he said. "You have more officers than necessary for such a vessel." Captain Olivia answered without hesitation. "We believe in redundancy. If one system fails, another takes its place. If one officer falls, another is ready to assume command." Soot let out a low rumble of amusement. "You build your ships to last forever," he said. "But nothing is indestructible." Thomas's expression remained neutral. "No, nothing is. But we come closer than most." The tour continued, each section revealing the Colossus's immense capabilities. They passed through the drone bay, where thousands of autonomous craft lay in perfect formation, each capable of independent combat decisions while remaining synchronized with the ship's overall strategy. They observed the shield control room, where engineers monitored the multi-layered defense grid that could absorb and neutralize even the most powerful energy weapons. And finally, they arrived at the weapons control center, where the full might of Earth's military technology was laid bare. As they stood before the massive display of weapon systems, Thomas turned to the 5 alien commanders. "You've seen our ship," he said. "Now, prepare to see what it can do." The observation dome of Space Station Aurora was packed beyond capacity, representatives from every species pressing against the curved viewport to catch a glimpse of the Mars Colossus as it positioned itself at the edge of the debris field. The destroyed moon's remnants floated in a chaotic orbit, jagged chunks of rock and dust scattering across the void like the aftermath of a cataclysm. Thomas Johnson stood at the center of the control interface, his dark uniform a stark contrast to the glowing displays around him. The 5 alien commanders were arranged in a semicircle, their expressions ranging from wary anticipation to outright skepticism. The mediator's voice rang through the chamber. "The Senate is prepared for the demonstration. Commander Johnson, you may begin." Thomas nodded, tapping his wrist device. "Captain Olivia, initiate Phase 1. On the massive holographic display, the Colossus's form shimmered, then vanished entirely. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the alien commanders scrambled to activate their own scanning equipment. Zorath's 6 eyes blinked rapidly, his fingers twitching as he ran a full-spectrum scan. "No trace," he muttered. "Not even residual heat." Thomas turned to him with a small smile. "You said your Sentinel Wrath was the ultimate predator, but our approach is different. We don't just hide, we erase our presence entirely." Draxina scaled, arms crossed. "And the movement?" she asked. "You said the ship repositions while cloaked." Thomas tapped his device again. "Phase 1 complete. Proceed with Phase 2. The Colossus reappeared, but not in the same location. It had shifted position, now hovering just above a massive asteroid fragment. "The ship moved during stealth," Thomas explained. "No emissions, no wake, just a repositioning at will." Zorath exhaled sharply, his usual confidence shaken. "Your species should not have this technology yet." Thomas merely shrugged. "We do." Before the alien commanders could fully process the implications, the display shifted again. "Phase 2. Offensive capabilities," Thomas announced. "Kinetic impact rails, full power." A moment later, the Colossus's railgun systems activated, sending a series of blinding flashes across the void. The first impact struck a mid-sized asteroid, reducing it to a cloud of vaporized dust in an instant. The second and third projectiles followed, each hitting their targets with surgical precision. The audience watched in stunned silence as the footage zoomed in, showing the sheer force of the impact, moon fragments disintegrating into nothingness. Draxina's jaw tightened. "That's more power than my planetary buster's main cannon," she muttered. "And it fired multiple times." Thomas nodded. "Yes, the kinetic rails are our primary long-range weapons. But we also have plasma spears for close-range engagements." He gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show the Colossus's secondary armaments. The ship's massive energy conduits flared to life, and a new series of beams lanced outward, striking the largest remaining asteroid in the field. Unlike the railgun's instant destruction, the plasma spears carved through the rock in a slow, deliberate manner, melting it into a molten river that drifted apart in glowing tendrils. Chrono's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Your energy weapons are more precise than ours," he admitted. "They do not rely on volume like the swarm cloud." Thomas turned to him. "Precision is key in warfare. Efficiency in destruction allows for control." Before anyone could respond, the display changed again. "Phase 3. Drone capabilities," Thomas said. "Our autonomous combat drones operate independently, but remain in perfect coordination with the ship's AI." The Colossus's bay doors opened, and a flood of sleek angular craft emerged. Unlike the Cybernetic Alliance's organic swarm cloud, these drones moved with chronoanical precision, each unit reacting to unseen commands in perfect synchronization. They scattered across the debris field, engaging in rapid-fire maneuvers, their movements too fast for the eye to follow. Then, without warning, they converged on a cluster of smaller asteroids, targeting each with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions erupted in quick succession, the once stable rock fragments breaking apart in a controlled cascade. Chrono's insectoid form stiffened. "How many?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Thomas glanced at him. 10,000 drones. This is only a fraction of our full swarm." Chrono's mandibles twitched in disbelief. His people's swarm cloud had been considered the pinnacle of autonomous warfare, until now. The demonstration pressed forward. "Phase 4. Defensive systems," Thomas continued. "Captain Olivia, activate the multi-layer shield grid." The Colossus positioned itself before a massive asteroid, one nearly the size of a small planetoid. A signal was sent from the station. This was a test. The asteroid was set on a collision course with the human vessel. As it accelerated, the Colossus's shields flared into existence, a series of concentric barriers forming around the ship. The first impact struck the outermost shield, and the asteroid shattered instantly, its fragments reduced to dust. The remaining pieces struck the subsequent layers, each one dissipating harmlessly. Soot's massive fists clenched. "That was a planetary-class impact," he rumbled. "And your ship took no damage." Thomas turned to him. "Our shields are designed to absorb and neutralize threats, not just resist them." Rin, who had been silent for much of the demonstration, finally stepped forward. "And Phase 5, she asked, her glowing eyes fixed on Thomas. "Psychological warfare?" Thomas gave a slight nod. "Precisely. The Colossus is not just a warship. It is a deterrent. A ship like this doesn't just fight battles. It prevents them before they begin." Rin's expression darkened. "Your people have developed countermeasures against mental projection." Thomas studied her for a moment. "We have. The Colossus's psi-dampening field disrupts psychic influence. If your psionic forge had attempted to exert control, your crew would have experienced severe discomfort. Prolonged exposure could have led to neurological collapse." Rin's breath caught slightly. "You have countered the most advanced form of warfare without even trying." Thomas's expression remained neutral. "We don't try, we prepare." The demonstration ended, but the silence in the observation dome was heavier than any explosion. The 5 alien commanders stood motionless, their minds racing through the implications of what they had just seen. The Colossus was not just a ship. It was a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Senate's military elite had been outmatched. And they knew it. The observation dome of space station, Aurora, remained filled long after the demonstration had ended. Conversations buzzed in every corner, diplomats and military officers exchanging theories, speculations, and concerns. The Colossus's capabilities had shattered long-held assumptions about Earth's place in the galactic hierarchy. What had begun as a summit to reaffirm the dominance of the established powers had turned into an unsettling realization. Humanity had not only caught up, but surpassed them. In a secluded alcove, the 5 alien commanders gathered in tense discussion. Zorath, usually composed, now paced in agitation. "This changes everything," he muttered. "If the humans have 50 ships of this class, they could shift the balance of power overnight." Draxina's massive frame leaned against the wall, her red scales dimmed in thought. "They haven't attacked," she pointed out. "They haven't even hinted at aggression." Chrono's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Yet," he said, "they demonstrated their full arsenal without hesitation. That speaks of confidence or of intent." Soot let out a low rumble of amusement. "Intent to what? Conquer. They have no fleets beyond this ship. No alliances, no territorial claims." He turned to Rin, who remained silent, her glowing eyes distant. "What do you see?" Rin finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I see a species that has prepared for every possible war. And I wonder, have they seen one we have not?" The question hung heavy in the air. The galaxy had enjoyed relative peace for centuries, but Earth had arrived with a war machine, built for total annihilation. The question was no longer whether they could compete. It was whether they had already foreseen a conflict the others had not. Back on the Colossus, Thomas Johnson watched the station through the viewport of his shuttle bay. The weight of the demonstration had settled on his shoulders, but he remained composed. He had come here to show Earth's strength, and he had done so without a single shot fired. Now the rest of the galaxy would have to decide what to do with that knowledge. In the days following the demonstration, the Galactic Senate convened in emergency sessions, their usual air of superiority replaced by a palpable tension. The summit, once a routine display of military prowess among the established powers, had become something else entirely, a reckoning. The Colossus's capabilities had not just impressed the alien commanders, they had unsettled them. Humanity had arrived with a warship that made their own vessels look obsolete, and worse still, they had not come alone. The revelation that Earth possessed 50 such ships had sent shockwaves through the Senate chambers, forcing the 5 dominant species to reassess their place in the galactic order. Zorath, ever the strategist, was the first to speak during the closed-door meeting. "We must understand the implications," he said, his skin shifting subtly as he processed the data. "If Earth has developed this technology in secret, what else are they capable of?" Draxina's massive form remained rigid. "They don't act like conquerors," she mused. "No demands, no territorial claims, just a display of strength." Chrono's mandibles clicked in frustration. "That is what concerns me. A species that builds such ships without need for conquest is one that prepares for something greater." Soot, the ever-blunt war general, crossed his arms. "We should ask them directly. If they do not seek expansion, what do they want?" Rin, her glowing eyes dimmed in thought, finally spoke. "Perhaps the question is not what they want, but what they fear." Silence settled over the chamber. The idea was unsettling. The galaxy had long been at peace, its conflicts limited to minor territorial disputes or strategic maneuvering. But Earth had arrived with weapons designed to erase entire fleets, with defenses that nullified even the most advanced technologies. They had not come to impress. They had come to ensure no one underestimated them. The reality was clear. Earth was no longer an outsider. They were a force to be reckoned with. And for the first time in millennia, the Galactic Senate was no longer the sole arbiter of military might. The Colossus's demonstration had not just impressed, it had shaken the foundation of the Galactic Senate's military doctrine. The alien commanders, once so confident in their technological superiority, now found themselves questioning the very principles that had governed their civilizations for millennia. The balance of power had always been maintained through a careful dance of deterrence, each species holding an advantage that kept the others in check. But Earth had broken that equilibrium. Zorath was the first to voice the unspoken fear. "This changes the entire structure of the summit," he muttered, his 6 eyes flickering in rapid succession. "For 60,000 years, we have gathered here to ensure no one species becomes too dominant. The Colossus has rendered that principle meaningless." Draxina let out a low growl, her massive frame shifting uneasily. "We have always believed that superior firepower meant superiority in war," she said. "But this ship's weapons are not just superior, they are beyond comparison. If Earth had wished to conquer, what could we have done to stop them?" Chrono's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Our entire doctrine of warfare is built around overwhelming numbers," he admitted. "But even our swarm cloud, our most devastating weapon, would be nothing against 10,000 self-guiding fighters, and that was only a fraction of what the Colossus carries." Soot, the most grounded among them, rumbled in agreement. "We have built our ships for planetary defense," he said. "But Earth's vessel could destroy entire worlds before we even detected it. And their shields 7 layers, each designed to neutralize a different type of threat. We have never seen anything like it." Rin, who had remained silent for much of the discussion, finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "And their countermeasures against psychological warfare," she murmured. "That field of psi-dampening energy, it was not just defensive. It was preemptive. They knew we would try to control perception. They prepared for it." The weight of her words settled over the group like a crushing force. The Colossus was not just a warship. It was a fortress, a deterrent, a weapon designed to end conflicts before they began. Earth had not come to the summit to impress. They had come to warn. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Senate's military elite had no clear answer. They had been the strongest, the most advanced, and the most feared. And now, they were the ones questioning their place in the stars. Humanity had arrived, not as an equal, but as a force beyond reckoning. Thomas Johnson sat alone in the station's garden dome, the artificial sunlight casting a warm glow over the carefully curated flora from 100 worlds. The air was thick with the scent of alien blossoms, their bioluminescent petals pulsing in slow, rhythmic patterns. He exhaled, the weight of the past few days pressing against the calm. The demonstration of Earth's military might have been necessary, but it had also changed everything. Now the Galactic Senate was forced to reassess its place in the universe, no longer the undisputed masters of warfare. Rin's voice cut through his thoughts, soft yet deliberate. "May I join you, Commander?" He glanced up, offering a small smile as he gestured to the empty seat beside him. "Of course, Admiral." She moved with the fluid grace of her kind, settling beside him in silence. Her glowing eyes dimmed to a gentle pulse as she observed the garden. "This is my favorite place on the station," she murmured. "It reminds me that despite our differences, all life shares certain needs: light, water, and a place to grow." Thomas nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We're not so different when it comes down to it," he said. "But I suppose Earth's approach to warfare is what unsettled your Senate." Rin studied him. "Your capacity for destruction exceeds anything we have encountered." Thomas met her gaze, his voice calm. "Our capacity for peace is just as great. We just never take it for granted." The Senate chamber was dimly lit, its curved walls lined with holographic displays that flickered with shifting data streams. The mediator's silvery form floated at the center, its voice measured as it addressed the gathered leaders. "The human vessel represents a significant shift in the balance of power," it said. "The Senate must understand Earth's intentions." Thomas Johnson sat with quiet confidence, his dark uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate regalia of the alien commanders. He met their gazes in turn, Zorath's calculating stare, Draxina's unreadable expression, Chrono's rapid mandible clicks, Soot's stoic silence, and Rin's piercing glow. "Our intentions are simple," Thomas said. "We wish to join the Galactic Senate as equals, not conquerors. The Colossus and our other ships exist for defense, not aggression." Zorath's 6 eyes blinked in quick succession. "Defense against what?" he asked. "No known species has the technology to threaten your fleet." Thomas's expression darkened slightly. The galaxy is vast, Admiral. Humanity learned early that it's wise to prepare for threats before they arrive, not after. Draxina's voice rumbled with skepticism. You speak as if you expect war. Thomas gave a small smile. We hope for peace but prepare for war, he said. It served us well. Soot leaned forward, his stone-like face unreadable. The truth, human. What does Earth want from the Senate? Thomas exhaled. Security, he said. We built our ships because our history taught us that strength is respected and the strong are rarely attacked. Chrono's mandibles clicked softly. Yet you kept these ships hidden until now. Why reveal them at this summit? Thomas's gaze was steady. Because isolation is no longer in our interest. Humanity has reached a crossroads. We can continue developing alone, or we can join with others. We chose the latter. The mediator's form shimmered slightly. Then tell us, Commander Johnson, what exactly are you proposing? Thomas straightened. Earth proposes a new alliance. We offer our defensive capabilities to the Galactic Senate, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The chamber fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the gathered leaders. Zorath's 6 eyes narrowed. You want to be the galaxy's defenders? He asked incredulously. Thomas nodded. We want to share what we've learned. Earth has focused on military technology out of necessity. Your civilizations have advanced in other areas while enjoying centuries of peace. Together, we could be stronger than we are apart. Draxina let out a low chuckle, her red scales dimming. Your ships would be the foundation of this alliance initially. Thomas gave a small smile. Yes, but we're offering more than ships. We're offering partnership. Rin's glowing eyes pulsed softly as she considered his words. A partnership where each contributes their strengths, she murmured. Your military technology combined with our advancements in other fields. Thomas inclined his head. Exactly. Earth doesn't seek to rule. We seek to belong while doing what we do best, protecting our own. The 5 commanders exchanged glances, their silent communication filled with unspoken calculations. Zorath finally spoke. The Senate will need to vote on such a proposal. All member species must have a voice. Thomas nodded. Earth is patient. The mediator's voice rang through the chamber. Then we will reconvene in 4 standard days for the vote. As they exited the room, the weight of the decision ahead hung over them. The alliance was not yet sealed, but the course had been set. 4 days later, the Great Hall of Space Station Aurora was filled beyond capacity. The Galactic Senate's representatives from every species gathered, their voices a low murmur of speculation and concern. Thomas Johnson stood at the far end of the chamber, his posture composed as he watched the mediator float to the center. The 5 alien commanders arrived moments later, their expressions unreadable as they took their places. Zorath was the first to speak, his 6 eyes blinking in slow succession. Commander Johnson, he began, his voice carrying the weight of deliberation. The Senate has reached its decision. Thomas nodded, his expression betraying nothing. Earth is accepted as a full member of the Galactic Senate, Zorath continued. Your proposal for a defensive alliance has been approved, with certain conditions. Chrono's mandibles clicked in rapid agreement. Knowledge exchange, he said. Your military technology for our advancements in medicine, energy, and exploration. Draxina crossed her massive arms. Training programs, she added. Your officers will train with ours, and ours with yours. Soot rumbled in confirmation. Oversight committees will ensure the alliance serves all equally, he said. And cultural exchange will build understanding beyond military cooperation. Thomas allowed himself a small smile. Earth accepts these conditions, he said. The mediator's form shimmered. Then, it is settled, it announced. The Galactic Defense Alliance is formed with Earth as a founding member. A murmur spread through the hall, uncertainty and curiosity interwoven. The 5 alien commanders turned to Thomas, no longer as rivals, but as allies. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in its history, humanity was at the heart of it. The 5 alien commanders walked alongside Thomas as they left the Great Hall, their earlier skepticism replaced by something closer to respect. The demonstration had changed everything. Earth was no longer an outsider. The Colossus had proven that strength was not just about size or firepower, but about preparation. As they reached the observation dome, the human battleship loomed in the distance, flanked by the fleets of the newly formed alliance. Draxina let out a low chuckle. "To think," she said, "we once boasted about our ships." Thomas smirked. "Your ships are still impressive. They're simply different." Rin's glowing eyes pulsed thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is what makes this alliance valuable," she murmured. "Not sameness, but difference, each contributing what others cannot." The 5 commanders looked at each other. The galaxy had changed, and Earth had arrived, not as conquerors, but as guardians of the stars.